Welcome to Picks and Parlays here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, also streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm your host, Nick Geber. You can find me right here when it's up on the screen. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see this. If you're listening on the radio, you're going to say, what is he yakking on about? There's my Twitter handle, @NickGeber. Send me a message. Love to hear from you. And by the way, you can participate during this show. Just find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Fill out the comment section. Make it rude. Make it mean. Make it smart. Make it pithy. Whatever. We'll see it here. And if it passes muster, it'll make it on screen, on show, and we'll talk about your comment. We do have a very big show today coming up for you. Of course, this January the 10th, 2020. I'd like to wish everybody in the Falkland Islands a very happy Margaret Thatcher Day today. That's right, Maggie Day today in the Falkland Islands. Okay, we're going to kick it off. Speaking of England and Margaret Thatcher, with some Premier League football. Al Ninos will join me. We're going to talk 3 curated matches for match day 22. We're going to talk Wolverhampton Wanderers against Newcastle United, Bournemouth against Watford, and Crystal Palace Arsenal. Bit of a London derby for you. We're going to give you 3 good picks with those matches, so stay tuned for that. Then moving right along, the man, the myth, the legend, his horseless carriage is parked outside and he is in studio with us, Chip Chirimbes. We're going to talk NBA action, Heat at Nets, Spurs at Grizzlies, Magic at Suns, and just when you thought we weren't going to get to it, you're wrong, because we are. Lakers at Mavericks, not going to miss that one. And finally, NFL Rapid Fire, of course. We've got the big 4 games coming up, and we'll be joined by our star handicappers. They're not handicrappers, that would be bad. They are handicappers. Craig Trapp, El Huapo, and Tony Comandante El Tigre Tellez for NBA Rapid Fire. You're not going to want to miss that. All right, that's what's on the table today. Love to hear from you. Send us a message on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. But I will be right back with Al Ninos to talk match day 22 in the English Premier League. I absolutely love these Friday shows. Welcome to picksandparlays.net, live on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network and streaming live throughout the day on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Well, we are, by the way, live on the radio every day, 4 p.m. Eastern Time or 1 p.m. Pacific, and speaking to our men and women in uniform around the world, hopefully staying very safe, listening on the American Forces Network. My favorite segment, Premier League football, match day 22 upon us. Who better to have a little chinwag with than my good friend, our star capper, Al Ninos. Al, how are you today?
Doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Well, I'm doing quite well, Al. I'm looking forward to match day 22. The FA Cup is behind us. The League Cup is behind us. The holiday season is behind us. The transfer window is open. Still waiting for some big moves that have yet to come, although Minamino at Liverpool, that was a done deal that just got executed on the 1st of January. But we'll be following Stu. Callum Chambers on the move, so watch out. All right, let's talk football, shall we? We have 3 matches to get to. Let's start with probably the easiest one of the 3, Al. Let's talk Wolverhampton Wanderers, Newcastle United. This is at the Molineux. Wolves in 7th position, 30 points. Newcastle, 13th position, 25 points. This is Nuno Espirito Santo. So really done a great job at Wolves against Steve Bruce. And Wolves did not have the best holiday fixtures. Lost 3, won 2. But 2 of those losses were to Spurs and Liverpool, so, sort of to be expected. João Moutinho, though, that is the key man for Wolves. He's second only to Liverpool's Trent Alexander-Arnold in setting up goals. He's the assist man, and he is working wonders for Wolverhampton Wanderers right now. And Wolves, partly because of João Moutinho, they've scored a full 1/3 more goals than Newcastle have all season. But they've only won 2 of the last 11 against Newcastle, and those were both away at St James's Park. Things for Newcastle have cooled considerably for Steve Bruce. Newcastle lost 3 in a row, and quite frankly, they're in danger of getting sucked down into that relegation zone again. We will see what happens. For me, at the Molineux, quite frankly, Al, this isn't too difficult. I'm going to say Wolves going to win this one 2-1. The question is, do Newcastle score? Probably 2-1, I'm going to say. Total goals on this one is 2.5, so I'm going to take the over. How do you see this?
Yeah, it's a pretty good look. I just think that the Wolves are, as you mentioned, the better team here, and I'm going more on the side. Although if I had to pick on the total, I would agree with you on the over. Getting a little plus money there's on the 2.5, so a pretty good bet. But I'm going with the Wolves at -1. I see them at -135 on there. So minus 132
on the pick'em, right?
At -1. No, they're -1. So
they're -1. Oh, so pardon me, -1. Yeah. I thought you said 132. Okay, yes, good. Good choice there. And by the way, you talk about Wolves. They're pretty good. If you look right now, Chelsea, Leicester, Liverpool, Man City, the top 4. Chelsea kind of dropping down a little bit. Man City in ascendancy again. But if you look, there's no Harry Kane till April at Tottenham because he's got a hamstring tear. Man United are all over the place. I mean, you just don't know what you're going to get any one day. Wolves are putting together a really solid run. If there's any of those teams outside of the top 4 that I think really have a sniff at getting in, look at Wolves, because Nuno Santos really has that team firing on all cylinders. All right, let's move along. Next match. Unfortunately, we don't have the whole show to do this. I wish we did. Bournemouth, Watford, great match here. Eddie Howe's Bournemouth, they've been a real disappointment late. They're 80 in the relegation zone with 20 points. Nigel Pearson just came to Watford a few games ago. It's been a revelation since he arrived. They're 19th place, 19 points. Folks, this is a relegation 6-pointer. This is the true definition of that game. So 2 of the bottom 3 are going to meet at the Vitality, which is Bournemouth's home. Bournemouth, their run of form since the beginning of the November has been nothing short of shocking, Al. They're 1 win, 1 draw, 8 losses in the last 10. They've gone winless in the last 4, and they've only scored 1 goal in the last 4 games. Horrible, horrible results. I'm quite frankly surprised that Eddie Howe's still there. Watford, they're going in the opposite direction. My favorite movie, Al, is Das Boot. Okay, it's one of my 5 favorite films. Do you ever see that film?
I have a long time ago. Actually,
yeah, it's about the German submarine in World War II. By the way, watch the German with the English subtitles. Don't watch the English dub version. That's rubbish. Watch the German one. But the submarine gets depth charged. It's lying at the bottom of the Straits of Gibraltar, and the crew work desperately and courageously to fix it. And finally, they pump enough water in, and slowly they start lifting up off the bottom with the shuddering and the creaking and the sand going everywhere. And they certainly rise to the top. Well, my friends, that's Watford, okay? They've been stuck at the bottom of the table almost the entire season. This is a good, solid, mid-table to upper mid-table football club as we saw last year. They definitely had some problems. Of course, some key injuries didn't help. Nigel Pearson's revolutionized them. Since he's been appointed, they've been unbeaten in 3 games. They only have 1 loss in the last 5, 8 goals in the last 4. They are a rising, just like the submarine in Das Boot, okay? For Watford, Chalobah and Cathcart should be available. Danny Welbeck, he might play a few minutes. Watford unbeaten at the Vitality in the last 4. Quite frankly, they're not going to lose here either. I thought take the draw, but I've changed. Take Watford plus 180 on the money line. Sprinkle some of that. Or you could be super conservative, Al. It's minus 103 for the pick'em.
Yeah, that's usually the way I like to go here. And again, as you mentioned, 2 teams going complete different directions. Watford winning 3 of their last 4 with a draw in there, whereas Bournemouth actually lost 3 of their last 4 with a draw. And yeah, as you mentioned, the Watford turning their season around after Nigel Pearson coming along. And yeah, absolutely love Watford here. Don't blame me for taking the plus 180. That's a nice big plus. I do expect them to win this game. But again, going the conservative route, as you said, and taking them at a pick at minus 103.
Unfortunately, my chatting about Das Boot has taken the time off the clock. So let's make this next one quick. It's a London derby. It's at Selhurst Park. It's 9th place Crystal Palace with 24 points. 29 points. Playing Arsenal in 10th place with 27 points. It's Roy Hodgson against Mikel Arteta. And despite a recent disappointing recent run of results, you know, Palace have actually only lost one game in the last 8, so it's a little deceptive. They've drawn a lot of games. Palace are 3-2 versus Arsenal going back to 2017. They drew the reverse fixture 2-2 at the Emirates in October. They beat the Gunners 3-2 last April, and I think the match before that, by the way, was 2-2 as well. Arsenal have only 2 wins in the last 13. They haven't had back-to-back winners since week 1 and 2. Zaha's current issue at Palace, they're valuing him at £80 million. Whether or not anyone takes it, it's just maybe he'll just be sulking and not playing. But I don't think so. This, to me, is another one of those draws. I'm going to say 2-2. Take 288. Al, all yours.
Yeah, I'm leaning Arsenal here, minus 116, and also like the over 2.5 at minus 125. I like what I saw. Arsenal, I think, playing a bit better. They coming off a nice 2-0 win against Man U, and
But it's Man U.
Take this one.
You don't know whether you get rubbish Man U or wonderful. And by the way, Fernando Ramirez writes in and says, thanks for the awesome picks. Thank you, Fernando, for just being beautifully awesome. I don't know what else to say. And watch Das Boot. Okay, I have no idea why Crystal Palace are plus 335 home favourites. I don't think anyone's expecting them to get the win, by the way. Not me either. But look, 3 of the last 5 matches have been 2-2 draws, by the way. I'm telling you, Al, you got to look at history. Just like Das Boot, that was World War II history.
I see it.
2-2. I'm telling you, 2-2. Take it, run with it. The draw on the money line, plus 288. I'll speak to El Guapo, see if he wants to loan us some money out of the company petty cash fund so we can all buy a new Ferrari with this one. What do you think?
Sounds good. Sounds good. Sounds like a plan to me.
All right, Al, we can find you on the site, right? What do you got up at Picks and Parlays today?
Well, got the plays up for today, but yeah, I already have the Heat and Nets game up for Friday, so definitely a lot more good NBA lines just came out a minute ago, so gonna get on those right as we get off this show.
Well, you're going to get off the show right now, Al, because we're out of time. Thank you so much, Al Ninos. And speaking of NBA, he's here in the studio, the horseless carriage parked outside, his top hat removed. Chip Chirimbes, chicken dinner himself, sitting right next to me, actually, right now at the desk. When we come back, we're going to get right to it, talk some NBA action with our star handicapper himself. Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays, here on the Sports Byline Broadcast Network, where we are every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, 1 p.m. Pacific Time, and we stream throughout the day on YouTube. Listen to me, G'day, I'm Australian. I'm not, I'm English, but, you know, sorry about the fires. We stream throughout the day on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. By the way, I hope those terrible fires are out soon. We'd love to hear from you during the show. You can participate by filling out the comments section in any one of our social media outlets, and we'll see it here in all of its rude glory, or its polite glory. A very nice tweet, by the way, we had last time. But well, I think was that Facebook, Andrew? Was that Facebook? It was a Facebook comment. Great to have it. We'd love to hear from you. Fill out the comment section. But look, you don't want to talk about me anymore. Well, I want to talk about me, but you probably don't want to. You want to talk NBA basketball. Who better than to chat about NBA basketball than with my friend? This man, by the way, right now, he's 13-3-1. He's 81% in the NBA for the last 17 days. He's 12 and 14 in winning days. 12 of 14 winning days. And in the NFL wildcards, he was 4-2.
It's been
4-2
really
for the Wild Card weekend, Chipper. That's
not
awesome.
bad, not
but
bad.
Now you can afford to buy the drinks.
I would, but I just still want you to go over the edge.
Well,
but you know, it has been a great run. These are best bets in NBA that we're talking about. My Megabuck winner. It's the single strongest play each and every day. As a matter of fact, Nick, we've just hit our 5th straight college Megabuck winner tonight. I believe Purdue, with 20 seconds to go, had the lead, and they were getting 10. So over Michigan, that looks like a bona fide winner.
Well, let's go over to the casino afterwards and play some Wheel of Fortune or Buffalo.
No, they got too big an edge there.
You're lucky. You're lucky.
No, it has nothing to do with that.
Buffalo!
Who's that?
Is that the game? Never mind. You don't. Forget it. You don't play slot machines? I thought
No,
everyone your age
no,
did.
I don't do any casino gambling at all. I just bet on games.
All right, let's get to it.
Right.
Let's talk about the NBA. Heat's at net. The Heat, 27-10, 24-14-2 against the spread. 8-2, one lost, 2 in a row. Last outing was a win against the Pacers. They're 10-9 straight up, 9-1 against the spread on the road. Derrick Jones Jr. is an injury question mark for this game. Total's gone over in 12 of the last 15, and the Nets 16-20, 16-20 against the spread. They're 9-8 straight up and against the spread at home. Some injuries though. They got Garrett Temple will join Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They're not playing.
There's a lot of people at the Nets that have been down all year. And,
Total's gone under though in 10 of the last 13 against Miami.
They haven't put anything together on the floor, Nick. This Brooklyn team had great promise. They started out with, but LeVert's been hurt. They've had a lot of different injuries which have affected them. Usually teams can recover. Golden State couldn't recover this year. Brooklyn's now lost 7 in a row. But like you mentioned, 10 of their last 13 against the Heat have gone under. Yeah. And the Heat have been a firepower this year. They're a 3-point favorite here, which may seem a lot of modest. They've gone over in 12 of 15. But the thing is about this is the Nets don't have the firepower anymore, Nick. They just don't. They don't have anybody who can put the ball in the hoop. And Miami plays great defense if they need to. Numbers 217.
Yeah, but are we taking the under?
Well, what would you think?
Well, the Brooklyn's not scoring that much.
That's my point. The Heat's going
to have to crank it up. But my question for you is, Brooklyn aren't scoring much, but they're getting scored on plenty. So why is this? Why the Heat only a 3-point road favorite?
Well, I think that maybe it's the do factor where everyone's looking at this this Brooklyn team. I've gotten beat with them a couple of times where I thought they were in a spot, Nick, where they were supposed to come up big and supposed to win or at least cover, and they got pounded. Yeah. They've lost their 7 in a row, and they haven't even been competitive in these games, Nick. They haven't covered any of these games either. They're 0-7 against the points. It's a hard take. Now, it's only 3 here. It looks like a real sucker's bet right now, doesn't it? It looks like come and get me, and I'll take Brooklyn with the I'll take Miami minus the 3. It'll be 3.5, maybe 4 by game time tomorrow, and you might get caught in what we call the gaff, where they win by 2 or 3. Yeah. So it's a really it's a tough call, like you said, with all the injuries they have with the Nets, and they're just not putting their best team out there, and I'm really wondering if they're putting their best effort out there as well.
But we're going under.
Okay.
We're taking under.
Yeah,
right?
we are.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Spurs at Grizzlies. Spurs 16-20, 14-21, and 1 against the spread. They're 6-4 on a 2-game winner, coming off a 129-114 win over the Celtics. I wrote here the critics, but actually it's the Celtics.
The Celtics. It is Celtics.
I know that. Yeah, 5-11 straight up, 8-7-1 against the spread on the road. By the way, this is interesting. They're 16-20, but do you know they rank 3rd in field goal percentage and 4th in 3-point percentage, yet they're only 16-20?
Yeah, they got off to a really terrible start, and a terrible start against the points. But, one thing we know about the San Antonio Spurs is they are very well coached, and they have gotten a lot better, particularly the last month of the season. They started out terribly, and they're putting their shooting together, and they have to do it because they don't have the defensive intimidator they've had in the past, and they don't have that big guy to make the big stop in the middle. So they've taken their game to the outside, Nick, and they're shooting well, and so they can do that, like you said, 3rd in the NBA in shooting, 4th in 3-point shots. Yeah. You're making 3-point shots, you're going to be in the game.
For a team that's 16-20 and 14-21-1 against the spread.
You have to remember they started something like 7-19.
They had a horrible start.
Horrible,
yes,
and they didn't cover any of the spreads.
But they're only on a 2-game winner. They're only 6-4 the last 10.
But they were the worst point spread team out there by far.
Yeah, by far.
And now that they've caught up, they're at 40% right now, 14-21 on the year. But they are probably aside in the second half of the season, Nick, and we're just about at the halfway point here, and it looks like some of these teams are gearing up where they've sort of meshed together and they've got together, and other teams may be floundering.
Just like any one of these, 8 million game season sports, you need to put your run on in the latter part of the season, get healthy, get your injuries done early, and move forward, because you got to get that playoff run. As long as you hit the playoffs hot, Chip, anything can happen.
We've seen it in the NFL where teams have won their last 4 or 5 to get in, and maybe it didn't happen to the Eagles this week, but maybe they're losing their quarterback in the first quarter might have had some effect on the game. But You're absolutely right. I mean, in baseball, we've seen it where teams just flounder and all of a sudden they get hot. And hockey to St. Louis, and it happens. So in the NBA, in the second half of the season, we'll see what happens. But, Nick, I don't think that this Spur team has enough to win an NBA championship, no matter how hot
I don't think so. But, by the way, they are 1-point road favorites against the Grizzle, 231.5. I mean, Memphis... pretty much the same record, but we're not saying that about Memphis.
And why isn't Memphis?
They've won 4 of the last 5.
3.5,
They've won 4 of the last 5.
And they're not favored here by 3.5, 4. Would make me think that maybe the underdog Spurs are playing better basketball.
Could be. All right, next up, Orlando Phoenix, the Magic, 18 and by the way, we're having fun today. 18 and 20, 17, 19 and 2 against the spread. They're 6 and 4, 1 loss, 2 in a row, including hammering of the lackluster Wizards, 123 to 89. They're 5 and 12 straight up, 8 and 1 against the spread on the road. DJ Augustin, Aaron Jordan, not going to play. And I do really badly with these names. Everyone will forgive me. Total has gone over in 5 of the last 6 on the road. And the Suns, they're 3 and 7. They've lost the last 2 in a row. Recently, they lost to the Kings. I've got Suns 2-point favorites at home. Kind of makes sense. Total 217. It's kind of a generic scoreline on this one, I think.
Well, Phoenix, you're not going to get that much defense out of. Devin Booker's going to be throwing up. He's back healthy. Like you said, they're 3 and 7 in their last 10. This Orlando team, by the way, when they beat that Washington, which you mentioned was one of the top megabuck plays on Wednesday, they were a big crush winner for us. 5 and 12 on the road straight up. Is this game virtually a pick 'em? What is the line on this game?
It is 2. By the way, I did so well on that megabucks play. I've moved up from unflavored Pellegrino to lightly lemon zesty flavor.
Well, you can always get fresh lemon like we do in my house.
Chipper.
That's the way to go, I think, would imagine. The total for Orlando is going over 5 of the last 6, and this Phoenix team, which has been very disappointing. They've had number 1 draft picks the last couple of years, and we're still waiting for them to put it together. 1 and 7 straight up in their last 8 at home, Nick. This game's 2. They're favored here, and the fact that they're favored over a team that's virtually at 500, 18 and 20, Orlando, tells me that maybe Orlando is going to struggle more on the road than you might think, and that Phoenix may bust out here. I wouldn't get crazy with it, but I would lean here. I could take the Suns now.
All right. Next up, Lakers, Mavericks. Of course, so many lakes in Los Angeles. Where they came from. 6 and 4. Well, you remember that, Chip, don't you?
It was Minneapolis.
That's right.
George Mikan, of course.
Yeah, of course. He went to many of those games.
As a matter of fact, I tried to defend him at one time.
Is that your colostomy bag?
No,
Never mind.
No,
okay, 6 and 4 the loss.
No, it isn't. Thank you, Lord.
37, 19, 17, and 1 against the spread. They're 6 and 4, won the last 6 in a row. Most recently, a big win over who was that? The Knicks. 15 and 3, 9 and 9 against the spread away from home. LeBron's going to play. Avery Bradley, Anthony Davis are not going to play.
Right.
Total's gone under in 4 of the last 6 for the Lakers. The Mavs, 5 and 5. By the way, they're 23 and 14. This is no slouch of a team. Coming off a 106-107 loss to the Nuggets. They're 11 and 9 straight up, 7, 12 and 1 against the spread at home. Porzingis and who else is out?
Well, Porzingis is out.
Yeah, but they've got another one out too, don't they?
I don't think whoever else is out, I don't think they have the same kind of impact
I agree.
as Porzingis.
Yeah, Porzingis is out.
And this is his 6th straight game that he's out too, Nick. Yeah.
Is it really?
No.
They're still home favorites, though, 1.5 points against this steaming hot Lakers.
Now, they're favored over a Lakers team that's 15 and 3 straight up on the road. The number 3 defense in the league, only giving up 104 points, 0.9. They're 6 and 0 straight up in their last 6, and they've covered all 6. And that was after a 4-game losing streak. You remember the Lakers hit a little lull?
I remember that.
They picked up. It was like 2 weeks ago.
I know.
And since then, they've won 6 straight.
6 straight.
They're doing it with defense as well. And now with Anthony Davis sidelined, I expect that LeBron's going to control the ball a little bit more and facilitate the game and sit there. And this game, I believe, is destined to stay under. We have the number 3 offense with Dallas because of Luka Doncic. And, this guy may be the MVP. Actually, we hear about LeBron James, of course, and we hear about the Greek Freak. But this guy has turned this Maverick franchise completely around. And he's a solid all-around ball player. He's certainly a first-team All-NBA. And this is going to be a great matchup. This is one I'm really looking forward to watching, Nick. 2 great teams.
You're going to get to do that, Chipper. There you have it. Chip Chirimbes, smoking hot right now, 13-3-1, 81% the last 17 days on the NBA with this man right here, Chip Chirimbes. Find him, picksandparlays.net. Expert picks right there. You can get all of Chipper's picks for the entire year for $9.99 on our annual pass. All right, I'll be right back after this with some NFL Rapid Fire. Let's go. Welcome back to the show, Picks and Parlays. What fun that is with Chip Chirimbes. Love having Chip here. Great picks, by the way. But we got more great picks for you. Never fear. It's NFL Rapid Fire. Of course, we got 4 games to talk about. By the way, I'm your host, Nick Geber. Find me on Twitter at Nick Geber. Let's get to it, shall we? Let's bring on in our star cappers for our NFL Rapid Fire segment. And there they are in all their glory. Look at him, looking absolutely dapper in his red Picks and Parlays gear is our Jefe himself, but we like to call him El Guapo, Craig Trapp. And of course, looking very dapper as well, is Tony, Comandante El Tigre Tellez, ready to go. By the way, if you're listening to us on the radio and you're saying, you know, this is radio, I can't do this, you're right. Check us out on YouTube, Facebook, and or Twitter, or all 3. Put us up on all those screens in your home and see us in all our glory. Okay, picksandparlays.net, NFL Rapid Fire it is. Gentlemen, let's start with the man in the red, El Guapo, Craig Trapp. Should we start with Tennessee versus Baltimore, or do you like to start somewhere else?
No, that'll be good.
All right, well, 10-7 Titans against 14-2 Ravens. And after that big wild card win over the Patriots, Titans going to run up against a brick wall. At least that's my opinion. Baltimore 9-point favorites. I think that's widened since I had these. I'm a little kind of behind the times on some of these lines. Total of 47. Far away, Mr. Trapp.
Yeah, this line actually is 10 now. Pretty much consensus across the board. I don't think so. I think this Baltimore Ravens team, we've seen it more often than not in these divisional rounds. The teams that have not played, the teams that are well rested, sometimes a little rusty. And I think a Titans team, after that confidence, the way they finished the season, the way they beat the defending Super Bowl champion Patriots, I like this Titans team here at plus 10. I don't know if I'd sprinkle the money line, but I think it's much closer. I think this Tennessee Titans defense is the key. Let's take the Tennessee Titans plus 10. I also think the under 47 is a solid play. Like I said, I think there's a little rust here with that Ravens defense. And let's don't forget, Lamar Jackson wasn't so good last year in the playoffs.
Yeah, but you know, Craig, I mean, that time off has given guys like Earl Thomas and Mark Ingram a chance to recover, and they're likely to play. Let's get Tony T's take on this.
Yeah, I'm right there with Craig here. I'm going to take the 10 points here with Tennessee. You know, they've covered 4 straight on the road. These are road warriors here. They've covered, you know, as we talked about, 4 straight on the road, 5 straight on the road against winning home teams. And, of course, we saw that running attack. They averaged 142 yards this season, 5 yards per rush. And, of course, they ran the ball well against New England. Listen, they won in New England. No one does that, right? I mean, that's a pretty good achievement for this Titans team. And I think that carries some momentum here. And, of course, Ryan Tannehill, if he gets help in the running game, he can be an effective passer. Now, you know, well, on the road, he's been...
Yeah, but hold on a second. Adam Humphries, Khalif Raymond, Cody Hollister, they're not going to play. I mean, those are wide receivers.
Yeah, but you know, they can fill it in, and they can run the football. And we look at Tannehill's effectiveness on the road, 73% completion rate, and of course their numbers in the red zone has been outstanding. You know, when you look at their offensive numbers, 8th best on third down defensively, and of course when you look at them against really good, against a good defensive team, the Ravens, their offense was held to 24 points at Buffalo, 20 to San Francisco. which resulted in one possession wins. So getting more than one possession here, I'm going to take the underdog. As Craig said, I'm not a big fan of playing them on the money line, but this could be a one possession game. Guess what? You win no matter who wins.
Sure, of course, right. Well, Baltimore might win, but not by 10 points. And then you win all the way to the bank. So good on that one. Let's go with the next one, shall we, guys? Let's do the Seattle Seahawks versus the Green Bay Packers. I want to choose this one because of all the teams we've seen in the playoffs so far, the Seahawks look the least likely to do anything after their win. For me, anyway. They beat the Eagles 17-9. It was an ugly, ugly game. Seahawks, I mean, what was this? 11 penalties, a loss of 114 yards. I mean, you don't have to do anything against the Seahawks. You can just let them go and, get the ball for you. 114 yards in total penalties for the Seahawks. The matchup here is Seattle's offensive line against the Packers' pass rush. The Packers ranked 23rd against the rush, though. Too many injuries to list for the Seahawks. And the Packers, by the way, also got a fair amount of injuries as well. They closed the season with that tight win against Detroit. Their offense is ranked 24th in third down conversions. Guys, where are we going with this one? I got Green Bay home favorites, total of 47.
Yep. Okay. All right. I'll kick it off here. We've seen some line movement here. We've seen actually a 4.5 in some places, but I'll take the points with Seattle. I just can't go against a Seahawks team that's 8-1 straight up on the road. They average 371 yards a game. And what has Green Bay done the last few seasons? Have you seen them in any Super Bowls? We always hear the hype. Oh, Aaron Rodgers is a great quarterback. They fall flat in the playoffs. They haven't done much. And of course, they got a first-year head coach here in a big spot against a grizzled veteran in Pete Carroll, who's very good at making second half adjustments. So, and of course, I got Russell Wilson, a Super Bowl winning quarterback. I think I like my chances there. 66% completion rate, 31 touchdowns, 5 picks, and he's been accurate on the road, completing 70% of his passes. And one thing to note here about the Packers, they did give up a lot of yardage at home, 366 yards a game. And they've been held to 23 points or fewer in 4 straight. And don't forget, the Packers have not been a good third down team this year, just 23rd in the NFL on third down conversions. Give me a little more than a field goal here with Seattle plus the 4.
I hate to correct the expert, but actually it's 24th. But let's leave it right there. Tony.
All right, you got it.
Point well taken. Disagree with you, though. Craig, I disagree with Tony because they have... Seattle, by my count, has 19 injuries. Now, look, I know there's about 800 people on an NFL squad, but still, 19 first-team players injured is a lot to replace. What say you, Craig Trapp?
Well, my top play on this one is actually over at picksandparlays.net on the side, but I got to play for the total here for our rapid fire. I think you're right. I think there's a lot of injuries. So you know what Seattle's going to have to do? They're going to have to play ball control. They're going to have to slow this game down. And you know what? Green Bay doesn't mind playing the same way. They run the ball this year. Yes, everybody talks about how great Aaron Rodgers is. This year they won because they had a much improved pass rush and they're much improved running the ball. I think that's the key in this game. I think there's going to be a lot lower points. I think 47 is way too high. So my free play going to be under 47, but don't forget my top play. Go over to picksandparlays.net and get it this weekend.
Well, Craig, but I mean, what about the lack of discipline that the Seahawks have shown? I mean, that's going to be a problem if you've got to play a disciplined game.
Well, I think that, sometimes that first game in the playoffs, you can be a little jumpy, but I think, they're going to be the team. I've said this, we said this about the first game in the Ravens. They'll be a little rusty. I think the 49ers will be a little rusty. I think the Seahawks will fix some of those penalties. They're going to have to, because if they have another 11 penalties on the road, they will not win at Green Bay. So I think they'll be a little better. Pete Carroll's a great coach, and I think he'll have them ready for this one. But like I said, I think the under 47, very solid free play here.
And during the holiday season, he's known as Christmas Carol. Okay, the Houston Texans against the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a game I'm looking forward to, by the way. Houston 11-6, 8-1 against the spread, held off the Bills to win the wild card game. Bills didn't, do much with their play calling, but we'll leave that one there. Jonathan Joseph, Will Fuller, Jordan Akins are doubtful. They're 7-3 in the last 10, and the Chiefs 8-2. Last outing was beating the Chargers 31-21. That was the last game of the regular season. They've obviously had a little bit of a breather. They're 5-3 straight up against the spread at home. Second in yards per play, fourth in scoring. I like this team a lot. They're 9.5-point home favorites with a total of 50. Guys, there's no upset in the making here in my mind, But what do you think about this 9.5 points? Let's start with you,
I'll take this
Craig.
one. I actually see the Chiefs here at 10. I see both the AFC lines have moved from 9 or 9.5 to 10. I see the total at 51. I think the Texans have a real shot here. I really do. I think the Texans, they have all the makings of a team that can win on the road in the playoffs. They have a mobile quarterback that I think is going to be needed because the Chiefs' pass rush is much better this year. Their defense is much improved this year, but their offense is not quite as explosive as it was last year. I think the Texans catch a rusty Chiefs team, and I think this is a much closer game. Give me the 10 points, but I think the better play actually is going to play on the under 51. I just think both of these teams are going to play under. I think it's going to be like 23, 24 for each team. It's going to be that close, and I think the under is a very solid play here. I think Kansas City will just be lucky if they get out of this game alive. And if the Texans get past this game, I could see the Texans in the Super Bowl. They definitely have all the weapons. J.J. Watt's back. This is one of those dangerous teams that you do not want to face if you're Kansas City.
All right. Marijuana is legal here in Las Vegas, so I can understand your position, Craig. Yeah. Okay. El Tigre, what do you say?
Yeah, I love the side in this game. You can pick it up right now at picksandparlays.net. But I'm with Craig here. I think you're looking here at a lower scoring game. I would look to the under in this one between the Texans and one thing note is the Texans defense haven't been too shabby.
Come on, tell us.
Hey, you know what? That we want to talk about upsets. They can happen in the NFL this year, especially this year where I think there's been some parity with the top teams in the league. I think it can happen. And what is again? I'm going to say this like I said this about Green Bay. What has Kansas City done in the last several seasons? Have you seen them in the Super Bowl? No. It's one of those teams that we hype up and they never make it.
The last 400 years anyway. So I
know it's been the Patriots. I know. I'm just saying. Hey, Houston can get in there. Just look what happened in baseball. The team everyone said couldn't make it got in the Nationals. It could be sometimes you have weird years, and Toronto Raptors won the NBA Finals. No one picked them.
Leicester won the Premier League. But look, anything's possible.
There you go.
Anything's possible.
I think we can see a 6 seed.
If you click your heels 3 times and say make it so. Let's move on. We've got to move. Minnesota Vikings at the San Francisco 49ers. The Vikings 11-6, 10-7 against the spread, coming off that upset of the Saints. Dalvin Cook's return was the key for that, for at least the way I saw it in terms of changing the game. And Adam Thielen had a stellar showing too, I thought. Vikings D held New Orleans to 4-11 on third downs. The 49ers 13-3, 9-6-1 against the spread. They had a nice bye, and that was a huge benefit. Their defense has had a chance to rest and refit. D Ford and Quan Alexander are likely to return. That's a big help. They're big. I had 7.5 points. The way you guys are going, you're going to tell me it's now, Niners 9-point favorites. I had total at 45. You're going to tell me it's like 95 now. So I'll just throw it over to you, Tony. Tell us, what is it?
Yes, actually, I've got the Minnesota here at San Francisco laying 7. I'm going to take the 7 here with the Vikings. I respect the Vikings' offensive performance. Man, you go into New Orleans and then you held them to 20 points and you did a great job on third down getting off the field, and you win in that pressure-packed overtime period. I got to take the points here. They did put good pressure on Breeze. The Vikings are a different team when you have Cook and Thielen, but keep an eye on Thielen. He cut his foot in practice. It's a cut. They stitched him up. Hopefully that he'll be fine to go here on in this game. We see hockey players play with stitches. I think football players can play with stitches. I think they'll be fine. One thing I liked about them was they were 10 of 18 on third down in a playoff game in a dome in New Orleans. That's a tough spot to go. And don't forget, the Vikings did sit their starters in Week 17, so I'm not worried about this back-to-back game here. 49ers have failed to cover 4 of their past 5. I know they're getting healthier, but I think there's some momentum here with Minnesota coming in. I think they make it competitive again. The game could land 6, 4, or 3. You win no matter who wins when you take Minnesota plus the 7.
All right, 1 minute trap. What say you?
I usually we're not all in agreement, but we've been pretty much in agreement today. I like this Vikings team as well. Dalvin Cook is a difference maker. Their offensive line is more of a they really want to run the ball and play off the play fakes. They can do that when Dalvin Cook's running the ball. Dalvin Cook is the key. I think they get this win here on the road. But let's take the 7 points just in case. I also think another under here. Unders and underdogs are good last week. I think a lot of unders and underdogs this week, including this one. Let's take the Minnesota Vikings plus 7.
All right, gentlemen, thank you as always. You can find Craig, you can find Tony at picksandparlays.net. Now's a great time. You can pick up both of their picks for the entire year for $14.99. If you only want one of them, it's $9.99. But why have one when you could have two and get double that great sports intelligence? All right, if you've missed any of the picks, hang on. I'll recap them right after the break. Welcome back. Picks and parlays. We've had a great show. We started off with the Premier League, then we moved to NBA, then we had NFL rapid fire. So many picks we've given out on this show. We've got a lot more free picks on the website as well at picksandparlays.net. So why don't you head over there and see what we have. And by the way, if you've missed any of this show, don't worry, because it'll be available on replay on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and of course at the Believe Podcast Network. That is our podcast network where you can find this show right after it has concluded. Okay, let's recap the picks from today just in case you missed them. And we started off with Al Ninos and I talking a little Premier League football. Bournemouth-Watford. Al said take Watford as a pick'em at -103. Palace versus Arsenal. He said take Arsenal -116. Wolves-Newcastle. Take Wolves -1 and -132. And then my picks are a little bit different, actually. Bournemouth-Watford. Take that delicious money line at +180 every day. Palace-Arsenal. Take that draw +288. Remember, three of their last 5 games have ended as a 2-2 draw. Wolves-Newcastle. Take Wolves -1, 132. We're in agreement on that one. Then Chip and I talked a little NBA. Heat at Nets. He said take the over 217. Spurs at the Grizzlies. Take over 231.5. And the Magic at Suns. Take Orlando +2. And Lakers at Mavs. Take the under. And finally, our NFL rapid fire. Craig Trapp, Vikings at Niners, take the Vikings +7. Titans at Ravens, take the Titans +10. The Texans at Chiefs, take the under 51. I know we're missing one there somewhere, but we'll move right along. Let's get Tony's picks. Vikings at Niners, take Vikings +7. Titans at Ravens, take Titans +10. And the Seahawks at the Packers, you'd take the Seahawks +4. And if you want Texans at Chiefs, they're available at picksandparlays.net. Remember, $9.99. You can get one Kappa's picks for the entire year. All right, that's going to wrap up the show. I'll be back with you. We'll be back on Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m.